Hello and welcome to Dawn Chorus Writes, a Miraculous Ladybug fanfiction. This is Sweet Kisses and it is part 5 of 6. If you haven't listened to Sweet Treats or Sweet Kisses, the links are below. I would recommend checking those out. This is part 2 and part of the Sweet series. So make sure you smash that like button, subscribe so you don't miss out on the next part. Comment down below what you think is going to happen next. Sweet Kisses, part 5. Adrian's POV. Adrien stared at the various bouquets of flowers in front of him, wondering which ones to pick. In the past, he had always handed Ladybug a rose as he declared his love for her, but now that he was Adrien, a rose didn't seem fitting. Plus, the fact that she had said no to Chat because she was in love with Adrien. And yet, that was all in the past, when he had told Ladybug, Marinette, on Sunday night as they stood fulfilling a daydream of his. She had nothing to say sorry for. At the end of the day, she had still loved him, and he was always going to be him. However, since Saturday, his love for this lady, his princess, his Marinette, was stronger than anything he'd felt before. It was real now. It was no longer a fantasy, and she was no longer an idol. She was positively perfect. School hadn't been too bad on the Monday. There had been questions and a few comments, but apparently making a bold statement in front of a class party was the best way to declare a relationship. Alia had moved to sit next to Nino so he could sit next to Marinette. He hadn't found her oh-so-cute blushing smile a distraction at all. And in science class, they worked together in teams, bringing in a sense of Ladybug and Chat Noir to their everyday lessons had been fun. After regretting leaving her the night before for the emptiness of his apparent home, Chat made plans to visit Marinette on the Monday evening to complete their homework and help Sabine cook dinner. This is what a family, our home felt like, and it was nice. No, it was more than nice. It made him realize what he'd been missing this whole time, especially over the past couple of years since his mother had gone missing. Okay, Adrien, focus. You're picking Marinette up in 30 minutes. He had planned on taking her to a restaurant, a typical Adrienette style, with menus that would shock a typical date. But Marinette was different. She definitely wasn't typical, and those kinds of things wouldn't impress her. She loved the thought and the time that went into gifts rather than the price tag. Then it had struck him on the Monday. What would be the opposite of the restaurant? And he would have to place a lot of work into it. A picnic. Yeah, that would be her. He had Googled picnic destinations across Paris when he came across a random article and knew he had found a date that he would look back on in years to come with a giddiness he'd felt in his stomach right now. Okay. He glanced around the colours from the vibrant yellows, soft pinks, rich reds and deep purples. He'd settled on picking out a bunch of sunflowers which symbolised longevity, adoration and pure love, along with stems of red chrysanthemums, which represent I love you. Could he say anything more than that? With a grand bouquet in hand and dressed in the shirt Marinette had made him, along with a smart pair of jeans, he made his way over to the bakery. The bell rang out and he could see Tom humming to himself in the back preparing tomorrow's orders. Good evening, Tom. I'm here for Marinette. Do you know if she's ready? Adrien blushed as Tom raised his eyebrows and grinned at the flowers. Good to see you, my boy. You have special plans tonight? Yes, sir. Tom, I've planned... Cut off in thought, Sabine entered by the back door of the bakery. Marinette is on her way down, my dear. Sabine said softly, admiring the flowers he held in his hand, and was now sure his cheeks were the same colour as the red chrysanthemums. There was a shuffle of feet. "I'm here, Mum," as Marinette stepped out from behind Sabine and looked stunning in a black Peter Pan-style dress with Chat Noir's paw prints darted along the hem and on the white collar. With her hair down, she looked... wow. She took his breath away. He felt himself getting flustered, gawking at his lady, knowing the secret message her dress was saying, whilst over-aware that her parents were staring at them both, especially him. "For you, Marinette, and you look beautiful. Shall we?" He handed her the flowers and nervously rubbed the back of his neck. "Thank you, Adrien. I love them." She let out a little giggle before turning to her mum. "Would you mind if... could you put these in some water for me, please?" "Sure, sweetheart." Sabine smiled as she took the flowers and sniffed at the subtle scent. "Now, I want you home by 10 p.m. It is still a school night," Tom added with a strange, serious expression. You have my word, Tom," Adrien said, suddenly aware of Marinette's father's size compared to him and how much he wanted to impress this man. "In that case, have fun, you two." Tom shifted his expression to a beaming smile. "Yes, have fun, sweetheart, and you too, Mickey." Sabine beamed at her daughter and then at Adrien, who she had still taken to using the nickname for him. Both of them let out an awkward laugh as Marinette reached out and took hold of Adrien's sweaty hand and pulled him in the direction of the door and back into the fresh air. "You can breathe now." She gave his hand a tight squeeze and a reassuring smile. "So, where are you taking me?" "Oh, thank you. And it's a surprise, but I'm sure you're going to love it." He waited until they had crossed the street and were walking by the river before he stopped. "Oh yeah? And how can you be so sure?" Marinette smirked at him as he wrapped his arm around her waist. "Because I know you." He leaned in and kissed her, feeling her melt in his arms. "Sorry, I wanted to give you a proper hello that wasn't in front of an audience." "Hello," she breathed. They walked through the streets hand in hand to the destination and made a few stops on the way. He picked up a basket from a cute retro-looking cafe with 2 extra drinks to go. They stopped off at a small boutique for another smaller basket, this time for Marinette to hold, and made their way to the last location. Bedded in one of the parks, a small group was gathering, laying out blankets on the ground around a modest stage whilst a band was setting up. "What's all this?" Marinette gave him a quizzical look as Adrien selected the ideal spot, away from the primary group but still close enough to hear and see the music. "I found this article online of a group that did hidden concerts around Paris where you bring your own food and drink and supplies for the night under the stars." "Really? That's amazing. So sweet." And she opened the basket in her hand and found 2 woolen blankets. She took the top one out and laid it out on the grass. "What kind of music do they play?" "I think mostly easy listening music, a bit of jazz, classical, the old classics. To be honest, I'm not too sure." He averted his gaze from her at the last part, hoping that this band would be good. "And what do we have in this basket?" She sat down on the soft wool and the delicate blends of colours patting to a space beside her. Placing the other basket in front of them, Adrien lowered himself down close to her. "This is dinner. I discovered that little cafe did a tapas-style menu and thought it would work well as picnic food. It smells delicious." "Is there cheese?" A voice filtered out from Adrien's shirt before Plag flew in front of them. Plag, you need to be careful. But of course I got you some cheese. How about pudding? Tiki's voice muttered from Marinette's purse. Marinette laughed and opened it to see a tiny friend smiling up at her before floating out and heading beside Plag. I wouldn't forget you now, Tiki, Adrien added. Of course there's pudding too. Plus, I heard Andre might stop by. He turned and saw Marinette grinning. Thank you. Her eyes glistened. This is everything. The band's velvety music drifted towards them. The thought, the effort, but mostly not hiding who we are from each other. This is us. And it's... Her voice veered off, cracking with emotions. Happy ones, he hoped. Would you care to dance with me, Master Mari? Adrien rose to his feet and held out a hand for her. The sun was starting to dip behind the horizon, washing the sky in rich tones of reds, oranges, and pinks. With pleasure, my dear sir, my Mickey. As she rose and made their way to the spot next to the blanket, her heels became stuck in the grass. Wait! She removed her shoes and stood in her tights. That's better. Adrien laughed. Only Marinette could be that bold. No, what if you stand on something? Step on my shoes instead. Really? You want me to... She gestured to his tan suede shoes. Yeah, why not? He picked her up and lowered her down, wrapping his arms around her so she didn't fall. See? That's not too bad now, is it? He knew he was displaying a bit more of his chat side. Marinette giggled at the silliness of it all and rested her head against his chest as he shuffled around to the music. I love you, silly kitty. They had declared their love for one another to the point that it had become comfortable to add it into everyday conversation. I love you too, my lady. You mean the world to me, and tonight I wanted to show it. It feels like a dream I don't ever want to wake up from. I didn't know I could be this happy. She shifted her gaze upwards as one of his hands drifted and cupped the back of her head, their eyes locking onto one another as he leant forward. Boom! The ground shook around them, whilst in the distance a billow of smoke erupted. Oh, great. In the middle of the first official date, there would be a Akuma, but on the bright side, he would get to see his lady in action for the first time since finding out. So that would be good, right? Ladybug and Chat Noir working together as a team, defeat Hawkmoth, and then come straight back here to finish their Marinette and Adrien date? We had better find somewhere to transform. Marinette had stepped back from him and glanced around the space for a hidden spot. There are a bunch of trees over there that might work. Adrien, taking Marinette's hand with the Kwamis following, led the way. After a flash of light, Ladybug and Chat Noir leapt onto the nearest rooftops towards the battle, unaware of how this one Akuma fight would affect their future and yank them out of this blissful dream and into a nightmare Hawkmoth was planning. Thank you for listening to part 5. Part 6 will come next week. You do not want to miss out. Twists ahead. Everything can't say sweet all the time. And yeah, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out. And smash that like button. Comment down below what you think is going to happen next. And yeah, and just check out all the other videos that I've done so far. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.